Good evening. It seems incredible that it's already 3 years since we won the general election. 3 years since we started the work of bringing the changes necessary into our nation. 3 years in which you have grown to trust us. Because we are delivering on every single one of the commitments that we entered into with you. And with today's cabinet reshuffle, I'm making sure we will now end the process of delivering to you before the end of this parliamentary term. Let us look at some of the most important areas where we are delivering. Remember the old car park at USOC? It's now a magnificent park which the whole of our community can enjoy. It's exactly as we promised you it would be. And we're completing the work at Beachview Terraces, where more co-ownership flats are being built. We are delivering the 700-berth small boats marina during the course of next year, exactly as we promised. And for our senior citizens, Charles Blusson House and Seamaster Lodge, Albertizo-style living in the centre of our city. We won the litigation in respect of the tunnel under the runway. That's work which I have been directing. This will very likely produce the highest award of damages to the government of Gibraltar in our history of approximately £60 million. We are completing the refurbishment of our previously forgotten estates at Laguna, Moorish Castle and Glacis estates. And we've established the Gibraltar International Bank at last, as well as the University of Gibraltar, which will open in September 2015. As you can see, we have been working hard to deliver for you. But I'm conscious that there are areas where we have still not finished our work. And I think everyone can agree, even many of those of you who did not support us at the election 3 years ago, that this is an excellent program for the growth and development of our community. But Mr. Feetham says we cannot afford to do all of the work that we are doing for our nation. He says, using cartoons, that we are taking a risk with the public finances and the economy. Well, Mr. Feetham is wrong, and what's worse, he knows it. First of all, the numbers speak for themselves. There are now more Gibraltarians in work than ever before. In 3 years, we have been able to employ many of the Gibraltarians who Mr. Feetham and the GSD classed as unemployable. Unemployment under the GSD was in the region of 1,200. Yet unemployment today stands at 269 and falling. Our usable cash reserve is up from £2 million at the end of the financial year that Mr. Feetham and the GSD left office to well over £50 million today. And contrary to what Mr. Feetham says, Credit Finance Company Limited has not been used to finance any government project. Instead, it is just making money steadily and prudently for the depositors in the savings bank. That bank has itself grown from when Mr. Feetham was in office. Deposits from the public went up from 70 million under the GSD with Mr. Feetham to over 700 million in deposit terms now, with the majority of the depositors remaining local pensioners. And the reserves of the bank have gone up from a record low of about £1,000 when Mr. Feetham left office to a new high of over £15 million. That is a huge increase in the reserves of the savings bank in the time I have been in office. And look also, for example, at the reserves of community care. The reserves of community care have gone from zero when Mr. Feetham was in power to over £80 million today. But don't let Mr. Feetham worry you. If you need a final nail in the coffin of Mr. Feetham's lies, then don't just take my word for it. Listen to what Sir Peter Caruana himself had to say in Parliament during this year's budget debate about our public finances.
So no difficulty, frankly, and ought to be no difficulty, and is no difficulty from the opposition benches to note with pleasure and satisfaction that despite the threats and challenges that it has faced, the economy of Gibraltar continues to prosper and the government finances continue to hold well.
And then he also added this a little later.
Let's be clear. I think the levels of net public debt remain, even increased as they have been, well within the levels that are prudent in macroeconomic terms by any European standards. So I'm not saying any of this to criticize the level of public debt. They are at the level, or perhaps lower for all I know, than they would have been had we been in office.
I never thought I would share a broadcast quoting Sir Peter Caruana, but I do think he's a more serious and persuasive character to feature in a political broadcast than an attractive cartoon. It is clear that the GSD cannot recover from the loss of his leadership. So when you are deciding whether you should believe me or whether you should believe Mr. Feetham in relation to our debt levels, please factor into the equation that even Sir Peter Caruana, the man who led Gibraltar and the GSD for 16 years, agrees with me. Our finances are stronger than ever. Our economy is growing stronger than ever. On the fundamental issue of the state of our economy and the health of our public finances, the GSLP is once again being proved right. As with all the seminal issues Gibraltar has faced, the GSLP has been right about all of them. As we were right to stand firm and unflinching in the face of the unprecedented aggression from Spain since the election of the Partido Popular, we have to stand up to bullying and not succumb to it. Remember, the Partido Popular were just as aggressive between 1997 and 2003 when the GSD was in power, when they almost got away with their joint sovereignty attempt. I'm right to appear in the top Spanish television programs to put Gibraltar's views across to Spanish public opinion. And right also to visit the Spanish Parliament in Madrid and meet all political groupings at the highest levels, except the Partido Popular, who would not meet with me. That is the top level of Spanish politics in which we are rightly operating positively on your behalf every day. Just like we were right on the decision to reject the Brussels Agreement, and on the decision to introduce scholarships in 1988 for all our students, which our political opponents said would then bankrupt Gibraltar. And now we are undoubtedly right in spending carefully and halving our debt by the end of the lifetime of this Parliament and starting our national bank and our university. And that is why you are right to continue trusting us, because we do what we say we will do, because we told you we would deliver real and positive change for our community, and we have. And because every day we put our hearts and our souls into our work for our beloved country. So thank you for continuing to trust in us. And at this special time of year, enjoy your time with family and friends. And let me end by wishing you, on behalf of Justine, Sebastian and myself, a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. Thank you for listening and good night.